Yeah. So, good evening to you, Dennis.
To you. And to you.
I have returned to the Northern Hemisphere, to the bloody fucking winter.
Yeah, from the Australian summer.
In which we are now in happy hour, but man, did I love the summer. The whole idea that you can get on a plane and then in 30 hours be in a different season is kind of messed up.
Kind of great.
Well, it's kind of great when you're going the right way.
When you go the right way, right. And what were the temperatures? 70s?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so pleasant.
Short sleeves, short shorts,
so pleasant.
Beach weather.
Did you see any golf courses? I don't imagine you played. Did you see any?
On the way from downtown Sydney to the airport, you do pass a golf course, and I saw a golf course, and I pined for the fairways, but it was just a moment.
Wasn't in the cards. Wasn't in the cards.
It wasn't in the cards or the golf carts.
It's a tough one when you travel, and I've done it many times with my own clubs, and many times without my own clubs, and without my own clubs is a whole lot harder. So I ended up not doing it if I had to rent clubs.
Well, I don't know. On the other hand, without your clubs feels, I don't know, like it's available as an option, as a thing to do.
With them?
Well, without, I would think. So let's see. Looking at the Google Maps, I passed there are two golf courses on the way from downtown Sydney to the airport. One is the Greens, North Sydney, and the other, no, that's not a golf course. Well, no. And the other is Kemmeray Golf Club. Although, judging from the map, there can't be more than 9 holes there.
Right. So the when we recorded the last episode in Australia, it was 9:30 in the morning.
Yes. About
this time, and so coming back, you would ordinarily, if you were in Sydney,
yes,
would think that today was Tuesday already, but instead, you've been forced to endure a 2-day long day, considering the time zone.
Yes, it feels like...
Is it a 12-hour difference?
It's 10 hours, which is close enough.
So, yeah, but that 12 hours spans over a night and a day, so it actually covers 2 days.
Yeah,
both the night of one day and then the morning of another.
I
exactly left, the opposite time zone.
I left at 5 p.m. and 30 hours later it was noon the next day. So that was 17 hours plus the 10, and it was messed up.
Right.
And
so here you are.
And here I am.
Back in España.
More or less coherent, as we will see as we go through this episode. As coherent as I can be.
Listen, don't set your goals too high. All right?
Okay, well, we'll just
set your sights low. Under promise, over deliver. Don't.
Will do.
Don't expect any cleverness anytime in the next 45 minutes.
On my side or your side?
It is both sides.
Okay.
Both sides.
Well, yes. So way to lower the bar for the listener.
There we go.
Just go ahead
and now they're thinking,
skip this episode.
Geez, I hope not. I can't wait to find out. We hope, or they say, oh really? Click.
Well, those that skip this episode will have missed something that we will soon see.
Discover.
Yes, discover. Yes. So I have a cerveza.
Oh.
That I will open now.
Oh.
Have you seen these news reports that some stupid percentage of Americans, like 20% or something, are afraid of buying Corona beer because they're afraid of the coronavirus?
I don't blame them.
How?
I don't blame them. Hey, it's a plot. It's a plot, and they figured it out.
It's a plot by the dirty Democrats to oust our leader.
It's another hoax.
Yeah.
Another hoax. The whole pandemic is basically a hoax. The Democrats are trying to. He says.
Thank Jesus, we have the right leader in charge with Mike Pence.
Oh, Mike Pence.
He's going to pray this shit away.
He doesn't believe in science to begin with.
Why would you need science if you have Jesus?
Oh, Lord.
Like, exactly my point. So he will pray away this because, in China, they're not big on Jesus. And where did the virus come from?
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
That's the...
There we have it.
Yes. I rest my case.
There you go.
There I go. There you go. There we all go.
There you go.
But for you go I.
My big fat Greek wedding. The father of the bride in question fixed everything with a squirt of Windex. Right. And also could tell you how every American word, or every American noun and whatever could be traced back to the Greek. And at the end of this innumerable 2 types of references, he would say, so there you go.
There you go. There you go.
There's a good clip in there somewhere.
Yes.
I bet you he does it 6-8 times in that movie. It'd be a nice clip to slap it all together. What a marvelous character. You can remind us in the show notes about his name and whatnot, but what lovely. Kazan played his wife. Oh my God, so great.
Yeah, that movie was appeared just before my big fat Spanish wedding. So it was
where you got a lot of your ideas.
It was appropriate to set expectations. However, well, I think my wedding was way better than that movie, but whatever.
Right. What? He don't eat meat?
Oh, you can't. No. There's no vegetarians allowed in Spain. You can't.
Imagine. Yeah, I looked at a menu the other day, and it was the best food in maybe the best main dish in any country, whatever. And they showed a grilled chicken from Brazil, and I thought about these countries that have been
Brazilian chicken, mm-hmm.
Demonstrating these culinary, miracles over the centuries.
Yep.
Spain,
Spain among
all through
yes.
Europe, among many, and particularly delicious looking. But I made up another gumbo the other day. This is more of a jambalaya, and made up another batch.
So, what's the difference between gumbo and jambalaya besides the hard G?
Gumbo is more like a stew, and jambalaya is pretty much a
rice.
A very, very like a rice dish, but very remarkably full of
stuff,
vegetables and meats.
Okay.
So it's drier. So you scoop it as opposed to ladle it. In gumbo, you would ladle.
Is there a middle ground where you have a gumbalaya?
That's what I just did.
Gumbalaya?
Yes. It was too loose to be a true jambalaya.
Or a jumbo?
But it also was too... So the remarkable thing about these foods, these kinds of stews that are so spicy and rich in flavor, is that when you eat them and then chill them for a day or chill them for 2, and you do them in a good pot
mm-hmm.
that you keep them in, the value and the magnitude and just the breadth of the taste magnifies after every day. So by the time you get to the last batch, not only is it the most flavorful,
right.
but it's also been reduced to much more of a porridge
mm-hmm.
rather than a gumbo,
a sludge of flavor,
and not yet a jambalaya.
Uh-huh.
But remarkable nonetheless. And the shrimp and the big pieces of fish never break down. So in the saucier final version, you still have good, tasteful chunks of the flesh of fish and shrimp.
I mean, there must be some limit. Like, you can't be defrost. You can't be enjoying your gumbalaya from last year and be like, wow, this is way better than.
No. Not without freezing it. You mean like if you had a vat the size of your car?
I'm just saying, like you say, every day it's better, but there must be some diminishing returns.
I don't know. I've never gone beyond the 2 or 3 days that the pot lasts, so I don't have any data on that.
All right.
But I know one thing for sure, it's within the 3-day period. It also depends how frequently and how often you're cooking it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing to let it cool for 5 or 6 hours. It's another thing to let it cool overnight. And, depending on your zone of cold. But short of freezing, and I don't like to freeze. I like the refrigerator. But anyway, enough about that. Yum yum though. But I made a new one today. Going to be making a new one.
Okay.
There you go. That's my day. That, writing, and beautiful weather. 50 degrees out, sunny.
Ooh, that's hot. I have a bizarre Australian anecdote for you. So when we got together with the Australians, I was there amongst other non-Australians who were visiting, and the Australians said, "Hey, have you ever had a Gaytime?" And we were like, "No." And they said, "Oh, you have to have a Gaytime. The Gaytime is the best. You have to. Hey, look, tonight I'll show you a Gaytime." And we were all like, "Okay, don't know what you're talking about." Turns out, Gaytime is a ice cream treat that is popular in Australia, and everyone in Australia, if you say Gaytime, they immediately are like, "Oh wow, Gaytime is the best," and it's so like whoever created this marketing concept of naming it that, and maybe it predates the use of gay for homosexuality, and it was just a happy time or whatever. But man, it was so weird being with having everyone say, "Oh yeah, you have to have a Gaytime. Let's have a Gaytime. Oh, I had a Gaytime last night. Oh, you and I." Yeah.
G-A-Y?
G-A-Y-T-I-M.
T-I-M?
Yeah. So, and it is, it's a common.
How was it?
It was amazing. I very much enjoyed my Gaytime.
And what was it, on a stick?
It's a ice cream on a stick with sort of cookie crumble around the outside.
Vanilla on the inside.
Yeah, and it was just fantastic.
Crunchy.
The outside was crunchy.
Wow, can't beat it.
So
can't beat it. Well, I can't do it anymore. It put me into a coma. But it sounds great. I used OD on ice cream. Oh my God.
Well,
back in the day.
Exactly. So it was.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I really can.
It was lovely, and then you have to go and tell your friends. Did
you eat one, or just one, or did you then
I only had one.
I gotta have another.
I was someone bought me a Gaytime, and I enjoyed it.
Did you want another one right away, or did you know that it was sufficient?
No.
Was it that good that you're like, oh man, I could do another one?
I mean, for sure, Gaytime. Yes, it was. At the time, it was enough. Let's just say.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, well, let's leave it at that. Yeah. Then.
And I will include a link in the show notes at. Wait a second. happyhour.fm/050 50.
50.
Are we at 50?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. So yeah. I will link to, well, and the actual brand is called Golden Gaytime, which is even better.
Which means that you're gay and old, which is
or that you're
two things to consider.
Yes. So the Wikipedia article says Golden Gaytime is a popular ice cream snack made and distributed by blah 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 in Australia. It was released in 1959.
Huh.
It's a toffee and vanilla ice cream dipped in a compound chocolate and wrapped in.
Well, what you're saying about the name makes some sense circle-wise,
exactly.
Because gay, it was happy, just simply happy.
Exactly, and then it says
it's the most frequent use of the word.
Yes, and then it says its name has survived intact, regardless of the possible homosexual connotations in modern decades. So,
does it say that
in the Wikipedia?
You're making that.
No, it says its name has survived intact, regardless of the possible homosexual connotations in modern decades.
It's interesting.
Well, I mean, you're surprised to hear that there were homosexual connotations about having a Gaytime in your mouth?
No, No.
Jesus.
No, I'm surprised that Wikipedia mentions that.
Oh, Wikipedia is very down to earth on all cultural aspects of life, so to speak.
So to speak. There's a funny thing going around that you sent me that the biggest kick of it was not only its subject matter, but its length. And with Donald Trump saying, as he does quite a bit, anything, when he's talking about money, everything's big and it's billions and billions and billions. How long is that tape?
Billions and 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 billions.
That clip predates his. Well, I don't know if it predates his presidency, but it's an old clip. It's not new.
Interesting. But it's quite. But I don't mean. And how long is it? I mean.
It's several minutes long of him just saying billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions. It's
because
he likes to say big numbers, and big numbers don't lie because they're big.
They're big. Everything's big.
So before I went to Australia, I said that I might buy a boomerang, but not a didgeridoo. And when I was there, I actually witnessed an Aborigine discussing the didgeridoo and about how stupid the white man was for coming in and hearing. Apparently, what they do through that long tube is sing. And that one of the songs that they sing, one of the common songs that they sing, sounds like didgeridoo. And the white men so many years ago came and said, "Well, we're going to call that a didgeridoo." But
what do they call
it? Some other word that I've since forgotten because
a stick. Hollow stick.
No, there's a word. I could look it up. I will put it in the show notes. But I did. Admittedly, because it was the only place that was available in the airport, I bought a decorative boomerang.
Oh,
which I will show.
Decorative meaning that you can't throw it or you don't.
So hold on. So I bought this lovely thing. It is shaped like a boomerang, and it is beautifully painted. And I had to buy one for my children as well. And my son immediately said, "Let's go out and throw this," which was a reasonable response from a young boy. And as I suspected, it's entirely decorative. And
so you threw it and it just kept going straight and landed.
It flies like a stick.
Goodbye, Dad. Why did you end up settling for that? Because you didn't think of it till you're at the airport?
No,
or didn't have time, or
there were no boomerang shops
in Sydney.
In all of Sydney, no.
You couldn't buy a boomerang in Sydney.
It was really hard to find anything remotely touristy. Like I had to go to a zoo where they would sell me little stuffed kangaroos or koala bears or something.
How many of those you get?
Got one per child, one stuffed koala. But I did tour the zoo, this little tiny zoo inside the city, and I did pay an extra $5 Australian dollars, which are like $4 US, to enter and take selfies and stuff with a little koala bear.
Oh,
and
are you gonna post one or two?
I will share. I will send one or two to you.
Oh,
and the koala. So koala bears are the most cuddly looking motherfuckers. Like you really want to hug them, but they have claws that are longer than my fingers. So, like, they look just like the most adorable thing that you want to hug, but they have these claws that look like they could just
tear you in half,
just rip,
cut you like slice you like bread.
Right. So, like, I more or less understand that they use those claws to climb the trees where they eat the leaves and stuff, but
nonetheless,
and also I've heard that koalas are pretty much the dumbest mammals that exist. Like
that so?
They're really, really stupid. Like
you're gonna get some mail for saying that.
Like
what they can't understand. If they're listening, they're so dumb. They won't understand what you're saying, are they? I don't want to piss off the entire koala bear nation.
Yeah,
but by calling them dumb.
But like
all these people.
But like I'm saying, like we're comparing them to sheep and cows.
They're dumber than sheep
and mice. Like they're really fucking stupid. They just sit there and put leaves in their mouths and blah blah. It's just no. There's no there.
There's no bear there.
There's no bear there. Exactly.
Put that on the back of a T-shirt.
So they have low quality control. They have low quality. They may be quantity, but the quality.
Aren't you glad that we didn't predict that you'd be clever? Because here you are clever, and it's only been one time in 40 minutes.
Well,
so I'm glad we didn't predict an avalanche of cleverness.
More clever
that was clever.
More clever than a koala bear, yes. So, that's how things are. So you tell me a story about your week. What have you done? Anything?
Nothing. I didn't do it. Nothing.
Did you crash your car? Did you build a thing on your house? What have you done?
Let's see. I went to an art show. My cousin was there. She had a booth, and her son, my nephew, cousin-nephew, Andy, was there. Great to see them. Great artwork. And they have these art shows. There are 104 booths there, and everybody had stuff they made, clothing, jewelry, painting, sculpture, just 104 booths. And it's in a civic center type place called the Expo Center, and 104 booths. Well, it runs for a full day, and it starts at like 8 o'clock in the morning and runs until 4. There's a big push, big lines in certain places, including my cousin's. And then it's busy all morning, and then there's lunch, and then in the afternoon it starts out busy. But then starting about 2:30, 3 o'clock, people stop coming because it costs $5 to get in. And that's when everything starts to go on sale because nobody wants to pack this stuff up. So Andy, last year, got a clock that was carved out of wood that stood 4 foot by 4 foot square. It was selling for $850, $900. He ended up walking away with it for like $150. And this year, there was this astounding print of this original painting that the artist did of a band, either bluesy, jazzy, rhythm and bluesy band, a large band, playing in somebody's backyard in these really colorful colors. But it was a 4.5 by 4.5 size print.
Okay.
And it would just kill a room. Hundreds of dollars, blah, blah, blah. And it's big. They don't want to pack it. We got it for $40.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, some amazing stuff. And such beautiful things. Hand-carved boxes in wood, pieces of wood with drawers built into them, and benches and jewelry and, just some cool stuff. So that was fun.
You didn't buy anything?
I didn't have any money.
Well.
Didn't have any money. Last year.
That's a good way to not buy anything.
Yeah, last year I bought this.
I remember that from episode probably 3 or 4. The Virgin Mary holding hope in her hands with stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I look for her, that artist.
Because that might have been exactly 1 year ago, actually, at that same place.
Actually, it was.
Actually, it was. Well, look at that.
Because it's the same time every year.
Well, look at that.
Makes my voice go high.
Yeah, imagine that.
You know, your voice goes high when
Imagine that.
Hey, you know, you kind of, hey, hon, did you happen to see that bottle of scotch that I had?
Did you happen to notice the crack in the bumper? Eh?
No,
Honey?
that would never be a question. Well, that's the response would be, what?
What? I
What?
don't recall anything about that.
What?
What?
I don't know. What?
I don't recall anything about it.
I don't know.
Exactly.
And then it dropped down to, oh.
Well, that's nothing. That
What? Yeah.
that ain't no thing, baby. That ain't no thing, baby.
That nothing. That ain't nothing, baby.
Yeah, so I saw a couple movies on my flights that we could talk about.
Go ahead. Number one. Number one.
I saw the movie Ford versus Ferrari,
I haven't seen it.
which is like pure testosterone, manly man movie.
Yeah.
And which is like there's only so many ways you can film a race movie, and they did a great job. It was as good as you could do, and it was, there's only so many shots you can do of the driver shifting gears and accelerating, etc.
Right.
But it was good. It was to my man brain, it was very pleasing. I don't know that it would please other people quite so much, but it was okay.
What was the other movie?
The other movie I saw was one called Lucy in the Sky, which was about, given that my astronaut pseudo-acquaintance that we've discussed before has recently returned to Earth, it was about a female astronaut who returned to Earth and found Earth sort of wanting, like less interesting than being in space. The protagonist was played by Natalie Portman, who had just the worst haircut the whole movie. But it turns out if you're really, really beautiful as if you have a beautiful face, it doesn't matter how terrible your haircut is.
That's true with her.
And that was true of many people. But yes, for sure, in this movie. There you go.
To her.
Yes.
To her.
And it was the. I like the movie where I like movies where the protagonist sort of has mental, psychological problems and not, I wouldn't say necessarily goes insane, but has troubles. I like that type of movie. And this was pretty good about that, although I think they could have done more with what it means to come back to Earth. I don't know. I think they could have done more, but it was an interesting movie. I wouldn't really recommend that someone go and pay for it, but if you have it on a streaming service or something, it's pretty good.
Now, did you end up... Sorry, go ahead.
No, and of course the protagonist was named Lucy.
Of course.
And you'll never...
Did you see the movie with us?
You'll never guess the Beatles song that they had as a soundtrack.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was, of course, Let It Be. No.
LSD.
Or as is the way that astronauts go into space now, back in the USSR would be appropriate. But anyway.
But that wasn't it either.
No. Anyway, what were you saying?
I wondered if you ended up seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I saw that and we discussed it.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oof,
when I saw it, but it is available on the on the airplanes. But yes,
right. Well. Oh, so I went to go see Parasite.
Did you?
Yes.
I have acquired that movie because I found it, but I don't have subtitles, which makes it hard to watch.
Impossible.
Yes.
It is one of the most unique movie experiences I've ever had.
Well, as it should be, given that it's the first foreign language Best Picture winner.
There's a reason for that.
Right.
There is a reason for that.
So.
But anyway, that's a good one to talk about. And the soon-to-be-released Ray Donovan movie. The
really?
2-hour HBO, at least a 2-hour HBO episode to call it down. They had to make these decisions before they tore the sets down and before they had trouble with actor schedules.
Right.
Because if they didn't make a decision quickly, it was going to be very expensive. It was already expensive. That's one of the most expensive TV series shot.
Really?
Because of it's just so many stunts and they moved from LA to New York City and very expensive. And so it was like shit or get off the pot. And what Leo Schreiber did was he wrote to the fans and to millions, and it was overwhelming. And of course, the cha-chang, the corporate saw that there was money to be made,
right? And
it actually put the actors in quite a good spot to be able to negotiate the final, because they were blindsided to a good extent. But I can't wait for it, because you can Google this 10 questions unanswered that are just so spot on that I couldn't agree more if I were to sit down and think of them. But I really love it that it gives the storyline for the final 2 hours is just understanding those 10 interwoven questions. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's so many TV shows that finish with unanswered questions.
Well, and in fact, I could live with those unanswered questions if that's what the screenwriters and the actors had wanted.
Right.
But they didn't. Now they have the chance. Now, I hold out the possibility that I may not, like, maybe it'll be a letdown. I mean, like, look at, I've said this about Game of Thrones, the ending was a letdown, but it could not be up to what you would imagine.
Well, and it wouldn't be the first TV show that finished with a movie. Like there was an X-Files movie after that TV show ended. Like several years later, the actors came back and it was so unmemorable that I can't recall anything that happened in that movie. But I remember going to it. But yeah, it. We'll see. I still am way behind on the Ray. Oh
yeah, well, there's 65 episodes. I mean, it's and it's well worth your time. I've been watching The New Pope, which is one of the most outrageous freaking movies shot within about the Catholic Church. It is just so sexual.
Wait, is that the Brazilian one?
The Brazilian director.
Yeah. Where it was banned in Brazil because it was so
outrageous. Outrageous.
Unorthodox, shall we say?
Jude Law plays the Pope. He was the young Pope, and then when the series was upped again, no spoiler here, they had ended the series. He was in a coma, and they began the new series called The New Pope, starring John Malkovich, called The New Pope. Mm-hmm. And it takes place while the old Pope is still in a coma, breathing, and the new Pope, John Malkovich, is dealing with what popes have to deal with.
John Malkovich?
Yes.
Okay.
Plus the outrageous sexual allegations that are going on in the world, and the degree of homosexuality in the Vatican. And so the whole series is just completely sexualized, and pretty astounding. So that came out last night. I can watch that tonight if I wanted, or the other new episode. But go ahead.
Speaking of John Malkovich, when I was when you wake up on the airplane and there's 2 hours until landing, and I was not going to go back to sleep. I was very much aware that I needed to choose a movie to watch that would fit in those 2 hours, and I found one that starred John Malkovich, and I can't find it now. It was called Burn After Reading. Have you heard of this? It from 2008. It's from the Coen brothers as directors and writers, starring George Clooney and Brad Pitt and John Malkovich and Tilda Swinton and Frances McDormand.
Oh yes, yes.
It was this sort of very Coen brothers mess of people thinking that stuff is important when it really isn't, and just this whole mess of pseudo CIA spy stuff that was really quite funny. Like, I don't know that I would, like, I think I might have seen a little bit of this before, but
burn this after you read it.
Yeah, Burn After Reading.
Burn After Reading.
And it's a so Brad Pitt is a personal trainer at a gym.
Yeah,
sort of this doofus bro type.
Yes, I remember it.
And
yes, I remember it.
And everyone is having an affair with everyone else, and it's just.
And doesn't he start out as a human billboard?
Maybe, but
hanging on a ladder on the side of a building, doing exercises.
Possible.
Right.
Yes, possibly.
Gymnastics.
But it's and George Clooney is just this doofus government playboy type.
He's very funny.
Yes,
he's very funny. He has a better timing of comedy than
very many actors.
Than most.
Yes.
Than most.
But anyway, that was a pretty hilarious.
I'd like to see that again. I've only seen it once.
It was I think I might have seen it before, but it was very, very good. And let's see, it's after Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which is Clooney's big Coen Brothers debut. But it was very, very.
We're in a tight spot.
First of all, it was like, what am I watching? And then it was like, I can't look away.
Right.
So
George Clooney, we're in a tight spot.
Yes.
Very funny.
Which is a catchphrase.
Very funny. I love the sensual scene on the river with the three muses who seduced the men, and Clooney believed that the other character was turned into a frog.
You're talking about Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Yeah. Where, which John Goodman ends up smashed against a tree. It's pretty classic stuff. I can't wait to read Burn After Reading again. I remember it, and I saw Francis. What did I was last night? Raising Arizona with
that is a classic.
Nicolas Cage and Holly Hunter.
Yep. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
I saw the beginnings of it, and I just got tired, so I went to bed. I cut it off. But it's got a great soundtrack. I think it's Nicolas Cage, one of his best, to say the least. He was.
From what I've heard, in general, people are in agreement with that. Yes.
Is that so?
Yep. Everyone says that's one of his best. That's also Coen Brothers, right?
I believe it is. I may not have recognized it as such, but I thought yesterday that it must be.
Raising Arizona, beep, beep, beam. Yep, Coen Brothers. That might have been one of their first. Because that was 1987. That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, very funny. And Holly Hunter, they were both so young.
Right.
Holly Hunter's always funny, she says in this movie that she talks her husband into stealing one of the 5 quintuplets that are born because it isn't fair that somebody has so many and they can't have none. And he climbs up a ladder and steals one of them. And the last name of the baby is Arizona. The daddy's name is Nathan Arizona. But that's and he does it because he is dumber than a sloth.
Well, that's
and to have him start hitting on the cop who's taking his mug shots is such a hilarious premise.
Right.
You know, talk about swagger. You know. Oh, too funny. He's had a storied career. I haven't really been able to see him in movies where he has to speak with a British accent or he's acting like he's a wizard or any of those things. I can't see him in those parts and appreciate it. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, Nicolas Cage is one of those actors that, I don't know, he's a little bit like Keanu Reeves, where he has his character and it's more or less impossible for him to break out of it. But like, that's not an insult because, for example, Al Pacino is also always Al Pacino
right.
in all of his movies. So it's, I don't know. So apparently there's a new series with Al Pacino on Amazon Prime where it's called Hunters, I think.
Yes.
Where they're hunting Nazis, which is sort of like how low hanging fruit can you get for being approved of with violence. It's like it's a little bit like how the zombie genre, like how can we have a thing that we can kill mercilessly and it'd be okay? Well, zombies are there,
right?
And then you have Nazis as well.
They're undead,
you're right? And but I've heard that that there's a lot of pushback from the Jewish community that this TV show underplays or misrepresents the Holocaust in general and what that was. But I have not yet seen I've not seen an episode. I've seen the trailer. The trailer was like, a
little bizarre.
Yeah,
I thought the trailer was bizarre. I couldn't match the music and some of the pace of it with some of the scenes of it and from a previous trailer, which wasn't like that at all. The first trailer wasn't this hard punching rock-a-rama kind of, I wonder if one of the things about it is it's taking advantage of and glamorizing, or I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. Trailers.
Yeah, trailers are trailers.
Trailers have to give you that punch of excitement.
Right.
Whether or not
is it hard? Is it harder for you because you grew up in one?
In a trailer, or in a punch of excitement?
No, and you both.
I drank the punch of excitement, and here I am at happyhour.fm/050.
Whoa!
Punch of excitement, right in your face. Punch, boom.
Oh, so you sent me some other stuff this week. What did you send me?
Fuck if I know. Well. First of all, you totally predicted that when we got to South Carolina in the Democratic primary, that Joe Biden would take it all and that Pete Buttigieg would fall on his face and have to exit the race, which today, I guess, as we record, which for our listeners will be 2 weeks ago, I guess, has happened. And yeah.
When you're right, you're right.
So exactly.
And Amy Klobuchar dropped out too. Which
when you're right, you're right. I'm rarely right. But
when you're right, you're right.
And sometimes I'm left. Yes.
There's a joke about that somewhere. What was it?
Well, you know who's left is Bernie.
He's all who's left. Elizabeth Warren's going to fight all the way to the convention, which helps Joe Biden tremendously because that means the progressive side of the party is split, just like the moderate side of the party has been split, now reduced by everybody but Mr. Moneybags, Mr. Bloomberg, Mr. Mayor Bloomberg. He actually cut a commercial that admitted that he did porn debates and asked the question, would you rather have somebody who talks about it or somebody who gets it done? Mike, he gets it done. He rented 3 minutes of time on all the major stations last night to address the nation on the epidemic, the pandemic that's going on worldwide. Rented 3 minutes to talk about it, and he's going to come in a distant third somewhere. Elizabeth Warren and he are going to be tangled in the teens, probably in the low teens,
right.
And for all the money that he would have spent, which by then will be over oh my God, he's spending $7 million a day. So
what could he do to help the actual people that need it with that money?
Well, it's actually interesting because I don't have any doubts that in terms of the qualities, the governing qualities of a president and the managerial and administrative leadership skills that a president have to have, that Mike Bloomberg would probably knock it out of the ballpark. The problem that Mike Bloomberg has is that he has run a very stupid campaign. He foolishly didn't get in when he should have got in. He then foolishly decided to get in after South Carolina, which anybody knows is the state that is most responsible for selecting the eventual Democratic nominee. You know that. I know that. Why didn't Bloomberg, with all his money, know that and instead wait till Super Tuesday and basically concede that state to, maybe they're stupid enough to say whomever, but I would have said, of course, it'd be their quasi-favorite son, Joe Biden. I know that. Why doesn't Bloomberg know that with all his money? It's a fatal error. He's done after Super Tuesday. He's vowing to move on. He wants to be a fucking kingmaker, but he's also pledged to give up all of his fucking state offices throughout the country through the end of the election and pay for all the staff, no matter who the candidate is. That's powerful. He should do that sooner rather than later. The moment he drops out and he puts his money behind Joe Biden, boom.
He seems so out of touch, I guess I want to say. Like
he is low social skills.
How could anyone watch him speak and be like, yeah, he's my friend that will fight for me?
So the way that you need to know the only part of him that might be replicable of that are his commercials. Otherwise, he's very bland. He's very bland. He's very mild. He almost seems bored. He is arrogant. He is used to being in charge. He looks like half the time like you're wasting his time. He doesn't have good social skills. His voice is rather pitched. He's a short man.
So it's
and,
like,
and he's got short man's disease, if you want to be blunt about it.
It's
Napoleon fucking-esque.
So
whatever.
So he's like Trump, but with no charisma, because Trump, for all of his faults, he's got charisma. He's got people like to watch him talk, but
some people.
But Bloomberg is, and the rest of us like to watch him try to talk. But
so listen, this is the deal: is that
it's like Bloomberg is like yawn.
Bloomberg,
whatever.
He didn't successfully run New York City for 3 terms because of the way that he talked. It wasn't because of his ability to give speeches. It was him using his $66 billion empire to not only allow him to run the government with that business sense, but as I probably mentioned in another episode, was that putting hundreds of millions of his own money into things that help the city thrive, the nonprofits,
right,
the museums. He was totally committed as a rich mayor to be a good mayor and to be a philanthropist, and he settled political argument after political argument. When he had to cut services, he could put his own money into the nonprofits that would replace those services. Right. He was a brilliant, wealthy strategist with $66 billion. He could fill Yankee Stadium,
right,
with every single person there being a millionaire.
Wow.
So that's but he's running a shitty election or a shitty primary.
Right, but that's not the way you get elected president. You have to be talked about and interesting, and
that's maybe one of the reasons that his handlers told him to get in late.
Which is one of the problems with the whole system Right.
Well, in some respects, but I will tell you this, that it would be smart to skip the stupid caucuses, Iowa and New Hampshire, of course, and not a terrible idea to skip Nevada. Although in Nevada, your wealth might count as something, and it is a more representative state. But it is a caucus, and so my rule of thumb is fuck the caucuses. Go to a primary that's managed to standards by the election clerk's office, as opposed to the caucus that's run by the freaking local party. That's what happened in Iowa, New Hampshire, et cetera. But skip all that. No, he needed to be in this race by the time he got to South Carolina. And he should have done what Tom Steyer did, even though it failed for Tom Steyer, which is put a brunt of his money there and camp out there.
Right.
And much to Steyer's remarkable credit, he's vowed to stay in South Carolina, keep his headquarters open, and continue to work on behalf of the Democratic ideals and the very proposals that he pledged he would help with. He was going to put his millions in South Carolina because he fell in love with the state. It's a beautiful story. Got class. Steyer's got class, but it just got more judgment. He actually led the smart thinking and the absolute obvious truth that there's no path to the presidency, and because of that, you're at this point forward, you're a vanity candidate. If there's no path there, get out of the way. If you meant what you said, which is that the moderates have to band together to defeat Bernie Sanders so that we can win not just the presidency, but the Senate and the House, which, by the way, I said a little prayer for Joe Biden before he gave his speech, after it was shown on the news networks that the counties that he took, the blue, ended up finally filling the entire map because he took every county in the state. And I said a little prayer and said, Joe, please say it's about the presidency and we have to have the Senate and keep the House. Show that clip. That's what he said in the best speech the man has ever given in his life.
So you prayed for his speech, and then
delivered it,
and then you accomplished him having that speech.
Well, my prayers and many others, others. Okay. I wasn't the only one making this prayer.
Okay. Well,
it wasn't the
that's
our prayers were answered. And you know what James Clyburn said, the local politician in South Carolina, the state politician who is the big kingmaker. He says, as he introduces Joe Biden, this is a good man. He has his flaws, but you know him. You know his heart. He is a good man. And he is going to be able to bring this nation back to goodness. And Joe Biden finally hit the great balance that he had to strike with his pain and grief and the loss of his son.
Right.
And he had to do it in such a way that it made sense in terms of what he was going to do as president, and he knocked that out of the ballpark. He was a bit not tearful, but emotional, but the emotion was presidential.
Was right. Ooh.
And caring. And it was the contrast that Clyburn had introduced him to, had said, as he introduced him, this is the thing to make note of here. And so because of all the guffaws and the gaps and the oh my gods that have gone on, and he talked for moments about defeating Lindsey Graham and supporting Jamie, is his name Alexander, I think we checked that, but supporting this black candidate. And it was like, so it's the race is on. I'm going to be president. I'm going to help with those down Senate races. Right. And we're going to start right here in South Carolina. And you can bet he'll be back there again and again and again to help defeat that freaking whore, Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham is a terrible human. I agree.
Show in the show notes the wonderful commercial that this guy running for the Congress, running for the U.S. Senate, the only thing he says at the end is that he approved this. It's Trump talking about Lindsey Graham and Lindsey Graham talking about Trump, all in the early days.
And the name of the candidate is?
Jamie Alexander, I believe. That's from Friends. He'll have to look it up. And
well, depending on my abilities to determine what the fuck Dennis is talking about at any given moment, I will. That will be in the show notes or not.
You're brighter than that. At least I thought you were It shouldn't take you but a minute.
Well, what I am is exhausted.
Lindsey Graham, Senate opponent.
I am very, very sleepy. And I think it's time to say good night and happy hour to everyone.
All right, well, it's 5:45 here,
good
so
night
I'm
to
in
all,
good shape.
and to all a good night.
And you can listen and see the show notes where?
happyhour.fm/050. It's number 50. It's 50. We're halfway to 100, which is relevant somehow. So.
And on that clever note, I bid you adieu.
Well, good night, Dennis.
Good night.
Okay, that does it for episode 50. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/050. And you can help us make this podcast by going to patreon.com/happyhour and give us a couple dollars every month. That really would make a difference in letting us continue to make this podcast for your enjoyment. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week.